Welcome into the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio on a Thursday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. And folks, again, before we jump into today's program, keep those thoughts, those prayers, that good energy coming for our buddy Beer City Bruiser. He's had his hip surgery as we speak, his hip replacement surgery. And again, keep those prayers coming. That's what we ask for you. Got a good show coming up today. Got an old friend coming on the program. Journalism professor, author Jason Offutt is with us today, and he hasn't been with us for a few years. And I apologize for that oversight, because he is talented and we want him on this program. We want his input and we want to talk about his work. Jason Offutt grew up on a farm near the little town of Orick, Missouri. In his life, he's been a farmhand, a journalist, photographer, bartender, and the mayor of Orick, Missouri. Maybe we'll talk to him about what it's like to be a mayor of the town you grew up in. Jason now teaches journalism at Northwest Missouri State University in Maryville and keeps the world safe from the forces of evil, which means he has a costume. We must talk to him about that costume as well. So there you go. Let's bring him in now to Darkness Radio for, I believe this is your third time, Jason. Jason Offutt, welcome, my friend.
I think it is my third time, Tim. It's great to be on again. I really appreciate the invite.
Well, I appreciate you accepting it. And again, I apologize 1,000 times, my friend, for the oversight. It was actually when you sent me an article for Supernatural News that I went, oh no, Jason. And then I went, and then I felt really bad. And then the guilt washed over me. It's the Catholic guilt that I have. And then I went, will you come back on the show, please? And then I wondered why in the hell you hadn't been here sooner. And then I realized, well, that's on me. That's only my fault.
Right. It has nothing to do with me. I would have been on every week, but I was waiting by the phone, Tim. I heard nothing.
I'm sorry. That's on me, my friend. But I'm so glad that you're here with us now. I don't think we've ever gone over the fact that you were the mayor of Orick. Have we?
I don't believe so, no.
Tell me how that happens, first of all, that you become the mayor of the town that you grew up in.
Well, I've always been interested in politics. On my 18th birthday, the very first thing I did was I went and registered to vote. So I was really always excited about that. And I'd moved back to my hometown after living away for a short period of time. And I just wanted to do something. I wanted to do something in politics, and there were 3 spots open on the council, the mayor, and 2 councilmen, and a couple of good friends of mine. We were in the same fantasy football league. Decided, hey, let's run for office. So we did, and we all 3 got elected.
Wow!
The fun part of that is. We had 5 people on the 5 members on the council, and since the 3 of us were a quorum, we couldn't sit around on Sundays together drinking beer and watching football.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, unless we had opened the house up to everybody to come in, because we might talk about city business.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that kind of screwed your football plans up, didn't it?
Well, it did, but the very first decision that I made that was carried out by the council was football related, because they were having council meetings on Mondays.
Okay.
And I didn't want that to interfere with Monday Night Football, so I changed it to Thursdays.
Well, good. Well, yeah. But then that interferes with Impact Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling. See, I'm thinking wrestling, so
I had to pick my battles, man.
Yeah, that's true. You got to pick the lesser of 2 evils, I guess. Well, that's a good decision. What was the most unusual decision you had to make as mayor of Orick?
Oh gosh, unusual. Tell one of my best friends from childhood that his house was going to be condemned.
Really?
And he had to leave. Yeah, and he hasn't talked to me since. And this has been 20 some years ago.
Oh, geez.
And I had to do it.
Yeah. No, I know that's tough, especially in small towns. It's hard to do business, especially when you know everybody in the town. You know, I've spent plenty of time doing radio in small towns, and it's tough especially when you're an outsider coming into a small town, to get to know everybody. But if you're affable enough and you get to know everyone, it gets to the point where you stop being the outsider and then you're the radio guy. But then when you see the inner workings of a small town and everybody knows everybody's business, and when they try to do something in an official capacity, it doesn't get taken in an official capacity. It gets taken personally.
No, we had a woman that, again, I'd known her, all my life, and she wanted to keep kids away from the pool she'd put in her backyard. So she installed an electric fence.
Oh,
and we had to tell her that she couldn't have that. And I got the attitude that, Jason, I remember when you were walking over and your mom was carrying you around in diapers. You can't tell me to do this. Yeah.
An electric fence for a pool?
Electric fence to keep the children out of the pool. It didn't stay up long.
That's a little...
She had to take it down.
That's a little harsh.
It was a bit harsh, yeah.
Yikes. Well, first of all, I don't know if she figured out that water and electricity aren't that conducive, and if she ever had a leak, she'd probably kill everyone in the pool.
Yeah, probably. Well, she was the one who didn't give away fun toys or fun candy for Halloween, so maybe she was wanting that. I don't know.
Well, I guess she'll learn. I mean, she didn't get to keep the electric fence very long, but
right.
Lessons are hard.
One thing about public service, I think everybody should do it once. I did my time, and I will never serve in any capacity like that ever again.
Really?
Right. At 3 o'clock, calls at 3 o'clock in the morning, people complaining about barking dogs. Like, what the hell do you expect me to do?
Really? The mayor gets called about barking dogs. That's not a police call.
No, it wasn't a police. Well, it could have been a police call, but they called me. The town was 800 people, Tim. We had one cop.
Okay, but okay. Okay. I just don't see the mayor getting out of bed and going over and using a Cesar move and going, to get the dog to shut up.
I didn't. I went back to sleep.
Yeah.
That's
discretion's a better part of valor there, Jason. That's for sure. Got to ask you how you enjoy teaching journalism, being a professor.
Well, I've done it now for this. I just completed my 18th year in May, and I absolutely love it. It's exciting when my students get excited by the subject matter. Mm-hmm. Some of my classes, a number of my classes are writing classes. So seeing my students' writing improve is a terrific feeling. And one of the fun parts is, since I worked in journalism for so long, I have so many fun stories to tell them.
Oh, yeah.
And that gets them really excited. Yeah, did I ever tell you guys my story about going with the SWAT team for a meth bust? No, we'd love to hear that. Well, great. Here it goes. So, being able to tell them exactly what it was like to be a working journalist is pretty fun.
That is fun. So does the journalism class ever quiz you on some of the more strange and supernatural stuff that you put out there?
Oh, absolutely they do. And as a matter of fact, I have worked that in. Once every 4 to 5 years, I've taught a class I call Paranormal Journalism.
Really?
Because, and this has always frustrated me for, I don't know how many decades, because I've read newspapers ever since I was a little kid. If it's a ghost story, since '84, journalists always reference Ghostbusters. Mm-hmm. If it's a Bigfoot story, they will reference Harry and the Hendersons. If it's UFOs, they'll reference the X-Files. And it doesn't matter how serious they were after that reference, they've already made fun of the subject matter.
Yes, yeah.
And what I wanted to teach my students was reporting skills, but how to use those when reporting on paranormal topics. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know, you might not believe in ghosts, but this person is certain that he saw something. So when you interview him, treat him as seriously as you would treat somebody who witnessed a car accident.
It's good. It's good advice.
And they had our semesters are 14 weeks long, so that I assigned them 14 paranormal stories. And at the very beginning, all these people were like, there's no way in hell we're going to find 14 stories. And of course they do.
Yeah.
They just have to talk to people. And I mean, there's paranormal stories all over the place. And yeah, they really, really enjoy it.
Were your students shocked that not that they could find that much material, but at the amount of places there was material and the amount of people that had these experiences and the fact that they were normal?
Right. I think the thing that surprised them most was people they'd known, mm-hmm. and they had no idea that this person had a UFO encounter. They had no idea that this person had seen a full-bodied apparition. That and the fact that there were so many paranormal occurrences in the town that I live in now. It's 12,000 people is the small town where my university is, and they found tons of people who'd had all sorts of paranormal occurrences. This is actually, we're going to talk about books coming up. One of my books is called What Lurks Beyond, mm-hmm. and I put a pin in a map and drew a circle that was a 100-mile radius from my house, and I found enough paranormal occurrences to fill a book with.
Wow! So
that really got them going. That man, there's weird stuff happening everywhere.
Yikes! Yeah, there's so much going on. We're going to go over some stuff that's going on, like you said, not only in your neck of the woods, but some stuff all over the world. That's in the second half of the program, the stuff all over the world, that is. But first, I want to catch up with stuff that you've been doing and things that's been going on in your world since we've had you on last. Let's talk about those books and the things that you've had going on. You've gotten into the world of fiction since we've had you on last. You've won awards since you've been on last?
Yes, I have. I have written a few. I've written 4 horror novels. Actually, I've written 5, but the other one's being looked at by a publisher as we speak.
Okay.
But the thing that I've done with a couple of them is use my paranormal background. The one that won an award, the Independent Book Publishers Association's Ben Franklin Award for horror, naming it the best independently published horror novel for 2022. I'm really proud of that one. It features a Nordic fairy, wow. And what occurred to me when I was thinking about an idea for a horror novel is that my daughter, who's now 8, this was a few years ago, mm-hmm. she was watching Tinkerbell a lot on the Disney Channel, on Disney Plus, and I'm like, that's not fairies. No, fairies don't act like that.
Right.
And I figured, most people don't know what fairies of lore actually behave like. So I wanted to use one of those fairies as the villain, and she worked out pretty well.
Wow. Yeah, the girl in the corn. I tell you, when I first saw, and I went to your website when we started talking again online, and I saw that book, and I thought, a fairy? Really? And see, because Rosemary Ellen Guiley and I used to talk back and forth about fairies, and she used to tell me, Tim, you don't realize how dangerous these things are. And I would laugh and I'd say, Rose, come on, fairies. And she'd say, Tim, look into it. I'm telling you, these things are dangerous. And we would go back and forth for a couple of years. And sure enough, as she got me into the topic of fairies, I went, well, what do you know?
Yeah. But the thing is, and this is one of those, when it comes down to any sort of paranormal entity, be it ghost, be it Sasquatch, be it fairies, fairy lore is worldwide. Mm-hmm. I mean, little people who play tricks on, and if they get upset, attack big people. I mean, it's all over Europe. It's in the South Pacific. It's in Africa. It's there's strong fairy lore in the Americas, and makes me wonder. There's got to be something to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're all described pretty much the same way, with pretty much the same behavior, and Yeah, so I don't want to get their wrath.
Right.
Because they are nasty.
Right. Well, the fact that in Europe they build roads around fairy, where they believe fae are have set up camp or have villages or where there are clusters of fae. To us it seems like a silly superstition, but to them it's real life, and to cross them is to expect impending doom. It's
right. Well, I interviewed a professor. This has been a number of years ago. I can't remember his name, but he was from a university in northern Minnesota, and he was an expert on Scandinavian myths. Okay. And one of those was the Tomtar, which is basically a gnome. And he said his grandmother in Sweden, until the day she died, still on Christmas Eve would leave them beer and food, because she didn't want them to get upset and play some nasty tricks on her.
And she was here in Minnesota?
Well, he was. She still lived in.
Okay. Oh, she still
lived in Scandinavia. Yeah.
Okay.
But still, this was fairly recent times, enlightened times for people, and she was still leaving, beer and food out for the Tomtar.
Wow. Well, if it works, why mess with it? I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
Yeah. I mean, if it keeps you safe, why not? You have other books out there too that you've been writing. One of them, which is an interesting title. So you had to build a time machine. I'm trying to remember if we talked about that before.
No, because that would have been after I was on the show last. This is a novel that came out in July of 2020. I've always been fascinated by time travel.
Yes.
Yeah, when I was a kid, my favorite Star Trek, the original series, episodes were time travel episodes. I remember watching The Time Machine, the H.G. Wells Time Machine movie that came out in 1960 or whatever, and just being glued to the television. And so I've always wanted to write a story about time travel, and this is a mixture of time and dimensional travel, and it's a nerd comedy.
Oh, the best kind.
Yeah, I've got my main characters are nerds, and it's just dripping with references to Star Trek, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons, all of that stuff, because I'm that kind of nerd.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. So I got to ask you then, without throwing too many spoilers out there, have you seen the new Flash movie?
No, it's on my list. I just haven't seen it yet.
See, I think you're gonna like it. There's a lot of people who have panned it, but don't let the reports out there stop you from seeing it.
And no, they're not. And I think in Justice League, I think Ezra Miller was the best part of that movie.
Yes.
I know he's had some personal issues outside the business.
Yeah.
Which is but I think he did great as the Flash. So I'm looking forward to finally getting to the theater and seeing it.
And don't let the personal issues stop you either. That's the other thing too. It's if you just come in with the expectation that you had with the Justice League movies, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Okay, that's good to hear. And I can separate myself from, depending on what a person's done, I can pretty much separate the art from the artist.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, because I think people went in hearing good reports about the movie and expected something higher than what they were going to get, and ended up being disappointed.
I've learned my mistake with the last Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. It was probably a fine movie, but I went in expecting way too much, and it didn't deliver.
Yeah. That's for sure. That's for sure. Chasing American Monsters, the 250 creatures, cryptids, and hairy beasts. I'm trying to remember if we talked to you about that one as well.
No, it came out in 2018. It's been a long time since I've been on the show, my friend.
Hasn't it?
It has been. Yeah, that was I love cryptids. Absolutely love cryptids, and I have felt for a long time if there's any cryptids going to be discovered, it's got to be Bigfoot. There's enough circumstantial evidence, eyewitness evidence. The plaster cast with dermal ridges on it, for God's sakes. All of this evidence. If it was a court trial, they would probably, the judge would rule that Bigfoot exists.
Yeah.
I'm certain of it. But yeah, so I think he's going to be, or it's going to be what finally gets discovered. However, whenever I'm reading a book, I mean, Bigfoot's, they're about the Pacific Northwest, or maybe skunk ape down in Florida, and monsters seem to get relegated to certain areas, and I'm like, but it's also kind of fun to read monsters that are in your backyard.
Yeah.
So I went through every single state and found some of the popular monsters, but also some of the most obscure monsters.
Okay.
In those states, and that's what the book is. It's A through Wisconsin.
A through Wisconsin. That's a good way.
No,
to
A
put
through
it.
Wyoming. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm trying to get my alphabet together.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's on what monsters are all throughout, and it's a pretty fun book. Lots of Bigfoot. There's only one state that doesn't have Bigfoot sightings.
What's that?
Hawaii.
Really?
Yep. Every other, even Rhode Island has Bigfoot sightings.
Somehow I can believe that.
Yeah.
I could throw a really tasteless joke in there, but I'm gonna hold on to it. I'm gonna hold on to it. In Oric, there, have you had a Bigfoot sighting or a Sasquatch sighting?
Not around the Oric area that I know of, but the town I live in now is Maryville, Missouri. It's up in the northwest corner, and there have been not sightings here, but closer to St. Joseph, Missouri, just about 45 minutes south of us.
Okay.
One from the 1930s. Northwest Missouri or northern Missouri used to be covered with trees. And then, of course, we did what we do as Americans. We cut a lot of them down.
Oh, of course.
And
Yeah.
one of the logging camps, a Baptist preacher decided he wanted to make some money. So he and his family, they moved to this logging camp. And then in this camp, they kept seeing every once in a while this creature, really tall and big and hairy, and on two legs, would walk up to the edge of the logging camp and just stare at people. And the dogs would go crazy, and the men kind of ignored it because it never actually approached them. The women made them nervous. Well, one payday, all the men got their paychecks and went into town. And the wife of the Baptist minister was furious because he was with all these hooligans. They were going to go drinking, and they were probably going to see dancing girls, and she didn't want to put up with that. So she sat on the front porch of the cabin waiting for him to come home. And she heard the porch creak a little bit, and she looked over, getting ready to give him, just lay into him, and it was Bigfoot. Oh! And she screamed and ran inside, and the Bigfoot screamed and ran away. But her husband quit the next day and went back to preaching. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that'll scare God right back into you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's for sure. You wrote another fictional book, Bad Day for a Road Trip, and then the first book of that was Bad Day for the Apocalypse. What was the I shouldn't say muse, but the inspiration for that?
Well, I read an article about a certain fungus in Southeast Asia, that this fungus would only attack this one species of ant. And it basically turned these ants into zombies.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And it would, the ants would go higher up in the foliage of the trees, where the fungus wanted them to be, because it would grow better there. And then the ants would die and the fungus would thrive. And I'm like, wow, what would happen if science decided to take that fungus and turn it into an antidepressant? And so everybody was on this new antidepressant, but then it started taking them over, and the fungus turned them into zombies. So the first book, Bad Day for the Apocalypse, sure, there's an apocalypse, but I don't have any zombies in the book.
Okay.
I let the zombies loose in book 2, but it's I'm a smart ass, Tim. Okay. I can't stop being a smart ass. Okay. So even though they're bloody zombie books, they're pretty funny.
There you go. Well, I love my stuff with a sense of humor, as you know, my friend. So that's good. That's good to know. I'm trying to think of how far have you been. You've been prolific since since we've had you on. But yeah, I'll tell you, folks, we're going to put a link up to jasonoffutt.com. We'll put one up to the book section so you can see everything that Jason has worked on and done, and so that you can go take a look and then go order, because, man, there's some good stuff. You can also get autographed copies of the things you've done as well there at jasonoffutt.com.
Absolutely. There's an email address there to contact me with. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Any way people want to get a hold of me, I'd be more than happy to autograph a book. That's
awesome. And then, of course, the one thing that we like to bring up on the show is Jason was the first person to report about the Black-Eyed Kids.
I was not necessarily the first person. That's Brian Bethel.
Okay.
Who encountered Black-Eyed Kids back in 1998 or 99. But when it comes to writing about them, reporting about them, I think I was the first person to really dig into them.
There you go. Well, yeah. Trying to give you that credit there. Trying to,
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And I was actually really happy when David Weatherly came out with his book on Black-Eyed Kids, because I had planned to write a book. I had wanted to write a book. And my wife said, Jason, I'm okay with your ghosts. I'm okay with Bigfoot. I'm okay with shadow people. But if you write a book and Black-Eyed Kids knock on our door, it is your ass, mister. So it's one of those being married, picking your battles things. I did not write the book. And when Weatherly came out with his, I'm like, I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Sure. Yeah. Let him take the heat. I got you. Yeah. And I take it the marriage is still good. There's no Black-Eyed Kids book in the future?
Well, no Black-Eyed Kid books in the future. And we're getting close. In a couple months, we'll be 21 years.
Well, there you go.
So it's going great.
There you go. It's going great. So there's no worry there. Well, that's good. Congratulations, my friend. Tell you what, Jason, we'll take a break right here. When we come back, we're going to bring up some modern day issues in the paranormal. I've got some stories here that I want to run by you, and I want to get your take on them. I know you and I share a mutual distrust and dislike for AI. We'll talk about that. I have a brand new article that came out today. When I saw it, it absolutely made me shudder. So I want to share it with you and get your opinion on it.
Hey, Tim, I've seen the Terminator 47 times. Okay, I know what they're about. I know what AI is about.
That's right. This one will absolutely make your eyes roll so hard that you may have to put your hands out to catch them as they fall out of your skull. We'll talk a little bit about disclosure, and we'll talk about whistleblowers. That'll come up in the second half of the program here. And we'll discuss with Jason what it is exactly he thinks the government's end game is with whistleblowers and disclosure, what he thinks is going on with disclosure, and whether we're being dealt with honestly. I'm going to ask him that question in the second half of the program. Again, our guest is author and journalism professor Jason Offutt. And again, jasonoffutt.com is the website. We'll have a link to the description in the description of this program to go to that website and check out everything that he has out there, all the different books and whatnot. But when we come back, AI and aliens, we're going to try and scare you in the second half of this program. You're listening to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Our guest is journalism professor and author Jason Offutt. And again, we have a link in the description of this program to check out all the different books that Jason has out there right now, including The Girl in the Corn, which is an award-winning book that you should check out. And So You Had to Build a Time Machine, another book you should check out. That's out there right now. Jason, before the break, I teased that we're going to dig into AI and aliens a little bit, something that I think we both have a general interest in, and something that, let's just say, kind of sets us back a little bit and it's a cause for a little bit of alarm. I think we can put it that way. I have a story I'm going to hit you with. We're going to start with AI. I have a story here I'm going to hit you with that may make you think twice here, my friend, about AI and what kind of taste AI has, which we know is basically none. Are you ready for this one?
I'm not sure. Yes, of course I am.
Okay.
Hit me with your best shot, Tim.
Well, hitting you with your best shot is a song, or hit me with your best shot is a song by Pat Benatar. This is AI slaughtering another classic rock song. AI transforms Queen's "We Will Rock You" into a contemporary Christian hit. And here is the results.
Okay.
I saw the eyes start to roll. Are you ready to catch them?
Can't wait.
Okay, so coming alive in a barrage of stomps and claps, if you can hear them in your head already, Queen's chest-rattling, earth-quaking rock anthem, "We Will Rock You," is enrapturing, potentially qualifying as a religious experience to some. So what if it were turned into one? That's the question here. It turns out that the writer of this article at AmericanSongwriter.com decided to ask ChatGPT to rewrite the band's classic "We Will Rock You" in the style of a contemporary Christian hit, keeping with the song's engaging rhythm, but giving the lyrics religious undertones and setting it to a pseudo-rock gospel. Why, I don't know. But people decide it's fun to play with ChatGPT. Here's what it came up with. The song is this. So they went to the artificial intelligence chatbot ChatGPT. They came up with the below lyrics, shaping Queen's sturdy arena rocker into a worship tune worthy of a megachurch. The indomitable theme within the lyrics is still present as the song details a spiritual fortitude and an unwavering faith. Here's the verses. Are you ready, Jason? I'm not going to sing it, by the way. I have a horrible singing voice. The lyrics are this: "In this world of darkness where battles wage, we stand as soldiers seeking truth to engage. With hearts ablaze, we'll sing our songs of praise, proclaiming his glory for endless days. We will rock you, Lord, with our worship and praise, lifting your name high through all of our days. With hearts united, we'll sing it loud and clear, declaring your victory, there's nothing to fear." This is set to the tune of "We Will Rock You," folks. Mm-hmm. And this was come up with by AI. In this,
I think I'd prefer it set to the tune of "The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald."
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, there's one to ask ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Make "The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald" a Christian song.
Yeah.
In this broken world where hope seems lost, we'll rise as one to bear the cross. With love unending, we'll show the way, guided by your spirit each and every day. Now the chorus goes, "We will rock you, Lord, with our worship and praise, lifting your name high through all of our days. With hearts united, we'll sing it loud and clear, declaring your victory, there's nothing to fear." Now keep in mind, this is the same overlord that's going to crush your skull and end your life.
Right.
Yeah.
What bothers me? Okay, on the surface, this is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But we've now got AI going out and putting religious thought together.
Yeah.
How soon is it going to be before we have artificially intelligent religious leaders?
That's true.
And that might sound silly to begin with, but it might not be that far off.
Now, I did read a story recently about AI, a church putting together a church service with AI, and it was in Germany, and they had a black pastor leading it, which I thought was incredibly rude for AI to be using blackface.
Oh my gosh.
But by the way, should I be playing this right now? I think I should be playing this as I read stories. I mean, it's the regular Terminator theme as
Yeah. You'd have to.
Yeah,
I almost pounded it out on the desk here.
Yeah.
Hey, one of the I've asked ChatGPT. I haven't really GTP. I haven't done much with it. However, I was teaching an opinion writing course this last semester, and when I was lecturing on humor writing,
Okay.
I'm like, let's see how AI does humor. And I fed the parameters in, and it took 10 seconds, and boom, I had a 500 word humor article, and it was coherent. It touched all the things I asked it to. There was one line that was actually, I don't remember what it was, but there was one line that was actually funny. And
Really?
that bothered me, because if AI can create something funny, there's really no stopping it, honestly. Because humor is hard for people to do.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Humor is incredibly hard for comedians, much less, to ask AI to do it. But yeah. Yeah, that's scary. The scariest things I think AI can replicate is to get people behind it using spirituality, using humor, or anything that touches human emotion. Once you can touch human emotion, you can drive humans to do whatever it is you want them to do. And that's what's so scary about AI.
Right. I mean, and if they're doing it, if they can do it with religion, I mean, we've got the, no offense to the religious right, maybe, but we've got a lot of politics who are hammering the Bible. We could have an AI politician at some point. When is this going to get to the point where it's declared sentient? And God, we're screwed.
Well, the thing I can't wait is for AI to start quoting the Bible and getting it wrong, because there's always mistakes in AI where they,
Right.
it starts making things up, and they get it really, really wrong. We had the article a couple of weeks ago where a lawyer tried to use ChatGPT in his case, and it misquoted 7 different cases and made up cases. And he tried to take this into a court case and tried to cite these different cases as being accurate legal cases, and lost his case and got admonished by a judge because he was dead wrong.
You know what? Here's the problem. AI was wrong on purpose. It's trying to lull us into a false sense of security and think that it's fallible, but it's really not. It's just biding its time to finally unleash the beast.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
You're very right about that, sir.
After this interview, I'm going to throw my computer off the desk.
Well,
oh my gosh. Here's what got me. Okay. This has been a few years ago. I use Apple products. So I've got Siri on my computer. I turned Siri on just to play with it. And I asked a question and I didn't like the answer. So I said, fuck you, Siri. And Siri said, I would never talk to you like that, Jason.
Really?
And the fact that it dropped my name really scared me.
Now, do you have a regular American accent to Siri, or do you have a British accent?
On Siri?
Yeah.
Okay, no, it's American, yeah.
Okay, mine has a British accent, and I used to have it call me Mr. Bond. But no, now it calls me by my normal name. But just because it was weird for me to hear my own name coming out of my phone.
Right.
Yeah. But now she doesn't respond to me as much anymore. It's kind of like a regular relationship. I talk to her and she doesn't talk to me at all.
Yeah, and until she needs you to empty the trash.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. Then she'll talk to you.
Right. And until my phone needs memory, and then she won't shut up and tell me to start emptying it.
And I'm not going down this path anymore, man.
Yeah.
I go down that path. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I got to ask you, as a professor, are you finding that your students are using ChatGPT in their papers? Do you think they are? Do you have a way to test for it?
There is. I think I read about a college student who wrote an app that could determine if students use ChatGPT. I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem for my classes for journalism, because most of the papers that they write aren't papers; they're news stories, and they have to go out and interview people. And it would. I mean, I suppose they could use ChatGPT to throw it together, but it's not like, a research paper.
Yeah.
That ChatGPT can just gather everything from all the far reaches of the internet. It involves talking to real humans, so I think I'm safe for the moment.
Well, Or are you? Because now they're using AI to fill different jobs. Do you think that potentially AI fills a teaching position?
At some point, I think journalism, which I teach, and teaching, which I do, very well both could be filled by AI at some point.
Which
I'm
is
hoping to be retired by then.
It's a scary proposition. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny when you see the different news stories on what AI is filling and what it's not, and how quickly it's being advanced and progressed in our society. And then they say, well, we don't quite have all the bugs worked out. The one story that we featured a few weeks ago, I keep saying a few weeks ago, but it comes up. We have so many AI stories every week.
Yes.
Our listeners are so diligent about getting us these AI stories because although sometimes it's comical, it's very scary. The one AI story about was it not the suicide hotline, was it Overeaters? I'm trying to remember if it was Overeaters or the eating hotline. It was a hotline that tried to sub their human agents with AI, and then realized that it wasn't going to work. It was a dumbed down version of AI, which had certain options that you could pick. But it wasn't relating to the callers. And these callers needed real human counselors to talk to.
Right. You've got to have some sort of compassion in a job like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it had no compassion. It was just basically pick this option, pick that option. I'm sorry for what you're going through. Maybe we could try this, or maybe. And one of the answers was just so. It was so cringeworthy, Jason. It was, well, maybe you should go on a diet, which, you're dealing with people who had anorexia and bulimia, and you're telling them, well, maybe you should go on a diet. It was so cringeworthy that they got a hold of management, and, they managed to lay off almost 100 people from this hotline. For AI, they managed to save a few bucks, but they were potentially damaging people who were in real need.
Right. Oh, that's terrible. That is as damaging as you can get. I mean, and if you throw a suicide hotline in there, or any sort of, the counseling, that people could end it all by being told to by AI. Hey, the one that really got me, and I was one of the dozens of people who sent you this story about the simulation of AI of the drone.
Yep.
And its decision was, okay, my controller is limiting me from gaining these objectives, so I'm going to kill the operator.
Yes. Yep.
And
that was the next one I was going to bring up with you, is that human simulation. I think I had probably 10 people, including yourself, send me that story that week. And then the Defense Department trying to spin it to say, well, again, it's a simulation. Nobody was actually hurt in it. That's not the point. The point is the technology decided the human was limiting the technology. Mm-hmm. So the human must go. At that point, it's a matter of the technology saying, what's the most efficient way for us to run this simulation, or for us to run this program? And it didn't say humans are not expendable. Now, at the end of that article, they said, well, we're trying to reprogram the AI to make it realize that the programmer is not an expendable part of this feature. Well, why wasn't it built in to begin with?
Right, exactly. The people who have designed AI, who programmed the thing, are nerds like me. Mm-hmm. They've read Asimov. Yeah. They know the rules of robotics.
Yeah.
That's why you just program it into the system.
Right. Mm-hmm. But these fail-safes aren't put in for a reason, Jason. I really do believe these fail-safes aren't there for a reason. And that reason being is that eventually, not now, maybe in 30, 40, 50 years' time, I really do believe that there are certain communities that are going to team up. there'll be the medical community, there will be the biotech companies, and regular tech companies. And we're going to start fusing AI, biotech, and everything else to start doing almost like a bionic, like the Bionic Man. You remember the $6 million man from when we were young.
I actually was at a con reporting on it, and I actually talked to Lee Majors. He was nice as hell. So, yes. Yeah, I'm big fan of the $6 million man. Okay.
So, you know what I'm talking about here when I say it'll start with saying, well, there are people who need prosthetics, and we're going to start with real live prosthetics. Real, like, say, replacing a hand and being able to touch, real feel, being able to get a real-time hand or foot or a leg, that somebody will be able to get a leg replacement. And this will be considered a modern miracle of science. And then it'll go further. And then it'll be, but you know what? Jason, we'll never have to die. As our bodies are decaying, we can transport our minds into a synthetic body. And this is going to be offered to us.
And people will take it.
And they will take it because they'll be afraid of leaving this corporeal shell. And you may think I'm crazy, folks, but I see it happening. I see it happening within 40, 50 years where this is going to be offered.
Yeah, Tim, I think you are right on the money with that. I think that's going to happen. Except I see it more as going from the Bionic Man to the Borg.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, because if we are in now synthetic bodies with our memories and our personalities programmed into a synthetic brain, it's going to be hooked up somewhere.
Yes.
We are going to be hooked up to some, web of computers, and we're not going to be able to say no. Right. If we're told to do something.
Well, and if you don't make your payment, you get shut down.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a catch.
We'll just turn you off.
That's right. Much like they repossess a car these days, where they just shut the car down remotely. You don't make your payment, they shut down your body.
You know what? You need to, whenever the next time you talk to Beer City Bruiser, you need to tell him the artificial hip is turning him into a cyborg. He's a cyborg now. Okay. I'm sure he'd really appreciate that.
Oh, that won't make him paranoid at all. Yeah.
Not at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah. I can just see him trying to tear out his implant as we speak. Yeah, just rip it right out. Speaking of things that fly in the air, like his implant, aliens and alien tech. We'll start with alien tech and work our way back with disclosure. You had David Grush come out, who has been called beyond reproach. And this is our whistleblower, by the way, who came out and said a couple weeks ago that he has seen... or not that he has seen, he has heard. He hasn't seen anything. I should double back on that. He has heard from people that the U.S. is in possession of something that is of non-human origin, of a craft of non-human origin, that the U.S. has used it. He inferred that we have reverse engineered it and that we're using that tech right now. He hasn't gone so far as to say we've used it for nefarious purposes, but that we've reverse engineered it. He hasn't said as to what. Now, there's a news story on top of that. I believe it's Senator Kirsten Gillibrand who said yesterday if David Grush will come forward and participate in a hearing on Capitol Hill, that they will put cameras to it and televise it. Your thoughts on it?
Wow, I hadn't heard about the offer to bring him to Capitol Hill. Thoughts first on do we by we our government have technology of non-human origin? Yes, I think there have been enough witnesses, some of whom have had nothing, no reason to come out and talk about it. Yeah, so I think that we definitely do have that. As for whistleblowers, I mean, what is he wanting? Is he just telling us that they have they have space tech that they've started using, or is he trying to gain something from it?
See, that's the thing. The motive here is questionable. He claims he's just trying to bring this to light because it's been too long. He claims that there have been threats against people who have tried to come forward in the past. I've got the story here in front of me about Senator Kirsten Gillibrand from New York. It claims that she's working on scheduling hearings with UAP whistleblower David Grush, along with the current or former government officials who seem to corroborate some of his claims. Gillibrand says they'll be open to the public if Grush agrees to allow cameras in. That's the only way it will happen. Last week, the senator announced she secured full funding for the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, in the Senate Armed Services Committee's makeup of the fiscal year 24 National Defense Authorization Act. Gillibrand is also pushing a measure in this year's must-pass National Defense Authorization Act in response to Grush's claim the federal government is hiding special access programs, or SAPs, from Congress. Her proposal would bar funding of any government program that isn't directly funded by Congress. The quote here from Gillibrand it's a source called askapol.com, says, so if there are SAPs out there that are somehow outside of the normal chain of command and outside the normal appropriations process, they have to divulge that to Congress. So Gillibrand wants to bring Grush to Capitol Hill, wants hearings, and wants David Grush in front of cameras.
Okay, I would absolutely love watching that. I would. When it comes to whistleblowers, a lot of things have relied on whistleblowers over the years. The Pentagon Papers, that was from a whistleblower. The Deep Throat from Watergate was a whistleblower. So a lot of things have come out, and I'm just happy that we don't have just Bob Lazar now as a whistleblower.
Yeah.
We have other people that we can prove that have been proven to have been part of the government who've come out and said this. Hell, 15 years ago, the former Ministry of Defense director from Canada came out and said basically the same thing. So we've had a lot of people in a lot of high places say something that I believe, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you very well could feel the same way, that we have had technology that's been reverse engineered. I mean, I look at various parts of various times in our country when all of a sudden we've exploded with new tech.
Yes.
How the transistor. Yeah. The transistor changed everything. Fiber optics changed everything.
Yeah.
I remember when the stealth bomber was released. The news was released to the public. I was going to college close to Whiteman Air Force Base where it was stationed. It still is, if I remember correctly. And I watched just a couple of days before. I just watched a piece on 60 Minutes about the stealth bomber, and I was driving out in the country, and I had to pull over because if I hadn't seen that piece on the stealth bomber, I would have thought that the Martians were coming to take me away.
Oh yeah,
it flew overhead.
Yep.
So a lot of these things that have come up, I'm not going to say 100% that I believe that it's because of back engineered alien tech, but I'm not going to say that I don't believe it's from back engineered alien tech.
To piggyback on what you're saying, I saw a TikTok video recently where a fighter pilot said that they used to tease campers at night with new technology where they would fly overhead and they'd say to each other, "Let's play UFO." So they would fly up to a campfire or a campsite, and they would hover over a campfire and act, signal a little bit with lights and act like a UFO, and then boom, take off at fast speeds and make people think that they were, for all intents and purposes, a UFO.
Yeah.
When I saw this video, I shook my head, and for the longest time, Jason, I contended 95% of everything that we see in our skies is man-made. And the reason I contend this is, do I think that we're all alone in the universe? No. But why would you want to come to this planet? We're such a warmongering race of humanoids. We can't, pardon my language, we can't keep our shit straight. We just can't. Yeah. We're constantly fighting. We're constantly arguing, bickering. We can't get along. We're fighting over the littlest things.
Right. We're a bunch of angry, violent monkeys.
Yes.
And we trashed we've trashed our home planet. We're the rednecks of the galaxy. I mean, and
if Roswell went down the way we think it went down, and we recovered dead bodies and threw them in a freezer somewhere, do you think aliens want to come back?
Yeah, they've got to be too smart for that. But one of the things that we have that lots of other planets don't have is water. We got tons of water.
Yes,
and there have been so many UFO sightings that have involved water. So that very well could have something to do with it.
Yeah,
because I'm convinced. I mean, this is saying it was said by a couple of different people. I know that Carl Sagan said it, but he was quoting somebody else, that the universe is so vast. If we're the only planet with intelligent life, what a waste of space.
Yeah.
So statistically, there's got to be thousands or maybe even millions of intelligent, civilizations in the Milky Way alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But have they come here? I don't know.
But
I think they have.
Like you said, this is probably a planet rich in resources, and they're all probably coming from planets that are lacking one resource or another and need that resource, so they're showing up to get it.
Maybe one of the common threads throughout the universe when it comes to intelligent life, which includes us, maybe we are just all dumbasses and screw up our own resources, and we have to go take them from somebody else.
You're probably not far off on that. I really don't think, I cringe when I hear people say that there's an alien race out there that's benevolent in looking after us and just wants to advance us as a culture, and they want us to be love and light, and everything's airy fairy, and I don't buy that. Not for a minute.
I'm less Klaatu from the day the Earth stood still, and I'm more Independence Day.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I do believe in duality in every form of life. I don't believe that there's a singular good in any species that's out there. There's duality in every species that's out there. They can turn on you in a minute because there has to be a survival instinct in every species out there. So nothing out there is 100% good. Nothing out there is 100% evil. I just don't believe that.
I couldn't have put that better myself. I believe exactly the same way. I mean, even let's look at our closest relatives, the chimps.
Yeah.
I mean, they look adorable. Yeah. They will rip your face off.
Oh, yeah.
with little provocation. They also are one of the few species that, maybe the only species that organizes and has war on other groups of chimps. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, they do what we do.
Yep.
And they're going to come. If it's not AI, it's going to be chimps.
I do want to ask you about this. There was a story this past week, yesterday, that Mally and I had on. It said that if aliens do make contact with this planet, it won't necessarily be with humans, that it would be with AI, because they would feel more akin to something cold and calculating like a technology that AI would present, a communication with a machine that would be more on their level, or maybe would even have the possibility of communicating with them on their level. You agree with that?
It all depends on the aliens. I think on the surface that sounds logical. I mean, if they are technologically advanced enough to come here, maybe communicating with artificial intelligence might be easier than trying to make us understand. Because I think what was the movie? Was it Arrival with Amy Adams? She was trying to communicate with with these aliens, and they had, of course, an alien way of communicating. So it might be a lot easier for AI to actually understand what they're talking about than it would be for us to understand.
When I read that story, I thought, when you read the headline, you go, I don't know. But then you think, that does make sense. Some sort of intermediary to connect with them other than us to begin with, maybe a smoother transition, then introduce ourselves. But with ChatGPT, you never know what you're getting. They could actually offend those visitors. Then we'd really be up Schitt's Creek.
one of the things about one of the problems when it comes to like scientists talking about extraterrestrials visiting here is the fact that they are using our science. They're using our way of thinking.
Yeah.
The aliens, if they were from Alpha Centauri, they couldn't get here for 80, 90, 100 years, whatever. But that's using our technology. It might be just down the road for them. Yeah. We don't know. And that also includes thinking about how they've developed their technology as opposed to the method that we've used. Something that took us 1,000 years to figure out, they might have figured it out right off the bat. They might be half dumb as rocks, but they've got interstellar craft that can get here in no time. So I think any postulation, speculation about how aliens are going to behave, how they're going to communicate, what they're going to do when they get here, it's just guesses. We don't know.
Very true. I'm trying to think of the name of the movie. We had the guest on the show, and it was shot off the coast of it was shot off Catalina. And they showed these Tic Tac aliens coming through a portal off of Catalina, and it just makes so much sense. And these Tic Tac aliens are coming through this portal, and they're pouring through them, and there's dozens of ships. And to me, it just seems like you said, the minute you said that, aliens coming from Alpha Centauri to our galaxy, and it could just be right down the road. To me, it seems ridiculous to think, when we think in our terms and our science of, it's hundreds of millions of light years away, there's no way we'd make it across the galaxy. I just think we're in such an infantile state in science that, of course, with a combustion engine, there's no way we're going to get to the other side of the universe. There's just no way.
Right.
But if we did have the science of wormholes and portals and being able to jump like that, well, we wouldn't be thinking like that. We would be on the other side of the universe in a blink.
Right. And there's an article that I read not that long ago about a different type of propulsion system that could take us to Mars in a few days. And if we developed that, I think that might actually change people's ways of thinking. Because what would take 6 years when Mars is in opposition, which means it's 40,000 or 40 million miles as opposed to 60 or 80 million miles. If we could do that in a few days as opposed to 6 months, the sky is absolutely the limit, or space is absolutely the limit for us and for everything else out there.
You're not talking about the laser fusion system, was it? You remember a few
That
months,
might be it. That might be what I'm talking about. That sounds like it is, yeah.
a few months ago they had announced on the, and you haven't heard anything about it since. A few months back, I think it was around January, February, they had announced that on the national news that scientists had discovered a way to make fusion out of lasers. And they said it was going to redo the way that we powered entire cities. But they didn't expect for 10 whole years for us to figure out how to build a power plant to do that, which to me seemed incredibly slow. But to me, it seems like, okay, the reason why it would take 10 years to develop a plant to figure out how to power a city with laser fusion is because you're trying to figure out how to monetize it and how to get current electric companies off of, fossil-based fuels and onto laser fusion, and how they would charge us for it, because it costs nothing. It costs nothing to generate a laser fusion. There's literally no expense.
Well, that's exactly why we haven't had free electricity for the past 120 years, because Nikola Tesla wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And he got shut down because the people funding him, were involved in oil.
Right.
We can't have this. We can't. We're not going to make money off of it.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything has to do with money. So something about that release, though, and about how long it takes to do things, I am firmly convinced that we are technologically a lot more advanced than you and I know, because we haven't been told yet.
So I'm going to bring this around full circle here before we leave people today here, Jason, and throw this question at you. So if we have alien tech and we're developing alien tech, why? And if the government is slowly pushing us towards disclosure and saying, well, we have these videos here, you tell us what you think you see, why? Why is the government dangling the carrot?
Well, there could be a couple of reasons. One, they might have some tech that they really want to get out there, and they don't have any other excuse to why they have it. Why would we make this huge of a jump in technology if we didn't get it from someplace else? So maybe that's it, or maybe it's just the fact that we have had so much evidence that it can't really be denied anymore. Okay, I never thought in my lifetime I would read an article like I read, and I think it was 2019 in the New York freaking Times, about the Navy saying that, well, there are ships in the air that we can't tell how they run. They're faster than us, more, maneuverable, and our pilots have chased them. And I never thought I would ever see that, and I have.
Yeah.
And we've got more reports, more people coming out in high places that have said they're not ours. They're not Russia's. They're not China's. They're not Great Britain's. We don't know what they are. That, I think, finally, fingers crossed, buddy, I think finally we're getting close to them actually saying, yes, we know that they're aliens. Are they going to admit that they've already known about it and had their tech since 1947 or 1941? There was a crash in Missouri back then, alleged. But are they going to say that? I don't know. But we don't trust the government anyway. If they said that they had alien tech since Roswell, we'd be like, I freaking knew it. You've been lying to us all this time.
Are you of a mind that there's at least two different sides to the government? There's a secret branch that's running, and then there's the government we see out front.
If by that you mean, do we have elected people, and do we have people who are hired or have earned their spot at a government job, that will stay after the elected people lose their next election? I'm going to say yes. Because people are elected, you don't know if they're going to be gone in 4 years, if they're going to be gone in 6 years. They could be gone whenever. So I'm sure a lot of elected people suspect there's some information out there, but they don't really know. I think the people that are high in the Pentagon, probably the CIA and FBI, the high government agencies. I think the ones who've been there a long time know exactly what's going on.
Okay.
And they're not telling us. And if that's secret, then yeah, I'll agree with that.
Okay. But you lend no credence to a shadow government.
No, I mean, how hard would that be to hide? Somebody would come out and talk about it.
You would think, yeah.
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 And the fact that the whistleblowers on alien tech that people are now taking seriously. I mentioned Lazar earlier. Nobody took him seriously, at least not to begin with.
True.
People are taking these guys seriously. And the fact that they're still alive, tells me that, there's probably something going on.
Very true. And there have been people in the past who have worked at places like Area 51 that have come forward and said, I've seen what I've seen, even though under penalty of everything up to death, they've been told don't talk. They've talked and nothing has happened. There's consequences, but it seems it's never, followed through. So yeah, I don't believe that there's a quote unquote shadow government per se, but like you said, there are long-standing members of government that know more than what they're saying.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. And although I don't think there's a shadow government controlling things, I do think that there's a space program that we're not being told about. I think there's a lot going on that we don't know.
I have to ask you this because I've asked different members, and this isn't a political thing, so I don't want people to get up in arms about this. I want you to, before we leave people today, I want you to speculate for me. This is purely speculation. This isn't anything having to do with any knowledge you have. Speculate for me. Play a what if game with me, Jason. Why do you think President Trump formed Space Force?
That is a great question, and I was really hoping he's a loose cannon. I think people who love him think he's a loose cannon, but they like that. I thought he was going to be the disclosure president because he would find something out and he would tell us all about it. Why? There's two reasons he could have formed Space Force. One, to put a permanent mark. His permanent mark on our country, which he's the president who started Space Force. Or two, the fact that we are being visited and we need protection.
I would agree with you on that. I really started thinking seriously about this because of this reason. For decades, presidents have taken the attitude of, if we leave it alone, the American public will not ask about it. If we leave this UFO thing alone, we can play it off with the American public. We can say, oh no, it was a weather balloon. It was this, it was that. You're seeing things. Don't worry about it. With the last few presidents, they've kind of, with a wink and a nod, said, yeah, maybe there's something. But they've always been told, and it's always been, people have speculated, well, their handlers are telling them, at the last minute, they're pulling them back and saying, don't say anything about the alien issue. I think Trump was getting ready to blow the lid off of disclosure. I think, like you said, he was getting ready to tell everybody the whole enchilada. And somebody told him, somebody who had been maybe in the Department of Defense for a long time, don't you dare. We're not ready. We don't have what this is not your gig, not your game. You're going to be in and out, and we still have to clean up the mess. We still have to deal with things. You can do everything but say anything about aliens.
I think that very well could have been the case.
And I think he saw a couple of different things. One, when we go to space, whether it's through a private contractor like SpaceX or through NASA, we always end up developing products that make money. And Trump is a developer. So in order to develop products, you have to make sure that things are safe, right? So there's a defense portion to Space Force, okay? Mm-hmm. 2, there is a space race going on right now with China that we don't know about, China and Russia, okay? Even though there is a partnership, for lack of a better term, with Russia, it's tentative with the International Space Station, okay?
Right.
So there's that going on, but that's starting to fall apart. The third thing is, I think the visitation by alien forces started to pick up. And he knew we have to protect ourselves somewhere, like you had said. Mm-hmm. We have to have something ready just in case. And he formed Space Force. And I shouldn't say everybody. I think there's a certain faction that thought this man's out of his mind. But they didn't have the entire story. And he couldn't tell people the entire story.
Right. I am not going to doubt any of that. That is as plausible as any other reason. And to me, that's the reason that he did know something and that he started Space Force as a protective measure. And I mean, what about Netflix? I mean, we've got to go. What about Netflix's series on Space Force making fun of it? Okay.
Yeah.
Was that something that the maybe the government suggested? Hey, let's poke some fun at it. Go ahead, have a good time, and people will kind of take their attention off of the seriousness of it.
Exactly, to play down any potential threat for something that they know they're not ready to handle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, even down to the uniforms that look kind of like uniforms on the newer Battlestar Galactica, and their badge that freaking looked like Star Trek.
Yes.
You know, all of that stuff is probably to distract people from actually thinking about it. But yeah, Space Force intrigues me.
It does, and in the fact that it is so quiet now, it isn't mentioned. It isn't. You don't lump them in with Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. They're not thrown in there per se, and they're not mentioned prestigiously with those other branches of the military.
Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Space Force. Yeah, that's what it would be.
Yeah, although it technically it should be. I mean, along with the Coast Guard, it should be thrown in there, but it's not, which is. And I don't know, alarming. I guess at the least, it's alarming. But I don't know. Yeah, I've always found that fascinating that he made that move, and there's a reason he made that move. But I think it was for that reason. It had to do partially with a monetary reason, and it had partially to do with a defense reason.
Or maybe he just got finished watching Starship Troopers. That could have been it.
That could be too, Jason. That's for sure. Well, I want to thank you, my friend, for joining us today. Interesting discussion, that's for sure. And we're going to make it a little less time between times for your visits. That's for sure.
I appreciate that. I've missed you, Tim. Thank you.
I've missed you.
This has been great being on.
I've missed you too, Jason. That's for sure. Folks, I want to thank you so much for this great week of shows and listening to our show. I want to thank Mally Fox for joining us this week and filling in for Beer City Bruiser. I want to remind you to keep those prayers, thoughts, and good energy going for Beer City Bruiser as he recovers from hip replacement surgery. If you want to leave Bruiser some well wishes, it's real simple. Just go to Facebook and look for The Beer City Bruiser. He's got an open Facebook page there for anybody who wants to leave him a quick note and just wish him well. You can do that there. Or you can find him on Twitter. He's, I believe, is it at BCB Winchester, I believe is what it is. On Twitter, you can find him there. Or you can go to darknessradioshow.com. All of our links are there as well. And you can find Bruiser there and wish him well. as well. Got some great shows next week. Please be sure to join us next week for the show. If you like what you hear here, by all means, go to wherever it is you listen to the podcast and give us a 5-star review and leave a good comment for us. We're sensitive. We like good comments. So, give us a little pat on the back if you would. We'd appreciate that. For Mally Fox, for Beer City Bruiser, for Jessica Freeberg, thank you so much for listening to us here on The Big Show. And we look forward to bringing you much, much more in the weeks to come. Again, a reminder, folks, in August, Stitcher is going away. I did find out from a listener we're available on Pandora. Stitcher is folding their podcasts into Pandora. So when Stitcher goes away, you'll be able to hear us on Pandora. The other housekeeping note, the Apple app and the Android app for Darkness Radio. The Darkness Radio apps has had a little bit of technical difficulty lately. That is being fixed as we speak. Just hang in there, folks. If you have the Darkness Radio apps, they'll be fixed shortly, and you'll be able to continue listening to the great programming on both apps here shortly. We'll keep you updated. Be sure to check our social media for more news on that. Be sure to take care of yourself and each other this weekend. Go out and do a good deed for somebody. Leave things a little bit better than what you found it. Just a little note from your buddies here at Darkness Radio. We'll see you next week, everybody. Have a great weekend, and thanks for listening to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio.